Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Vanessa Vargas on behalf of Cerenade. I want to thank you for joining us today. So this live webinar is about how to efficiently gather your client's info using system and custom intake forms and other tools. So as always, this training is being recorded, and if you want to watch the video, I suggest that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search for Cerenade Academy, and click subscribe. This is where we keep all the videos for not just the live webinars, but also if we have new features, this is where we will upload tutorial video for you to be aware. All right, so another thing I want you to know is that the PowerPoint presentation that I'm sharing with you today is available for you to download it. So I suggest that you download it because you can click on the links, and later after today's training, you can review any of these links. As always, after we cover the material for today's session, I'm going to give you resources and support. We're going to have like a Q&A slide, and also a did you know section where you can click on the links. And I'm going to share with you the upcoming training classes for the month of May. All right, so let's get started. And I'm going to switch to my other screen. Now, this is the administrator. Let me switch to the caseworker module. For those that are new, you just so you know, you have two platforms, two portals included. This is the caseworker portal. And if I click on settings, I suggest that you right click on the word admin tools so that you can open in a new tab. I like to have them side by side, especially if you're going to be customizing your own questionnaires. You definitely want to open more than one tab. I noticed someone asked when they register for today's training, what's the difference between having access to admin versus the caseworker portal? As a Let's say that you have one license, you have access to both the admin and the caseworker portal, but it doesn't mean that all of your caseworkers will have access to the admin. You can block it. So if you have more than one license, you can decide who's who's going to have access to the main window plus the administrator portal. Now the administrator portal is only for customizations. The admin is not for you to create a case and work with forms. And so don't use this. This is just for you to customize the system. All right. Yeah. And if you don't know what's included, I suggest that you check out our website, serenade.com/eIMMIGRATION, so that you take a look at the features that are included in your package, plus whatever optional modules that you have selected. All right. So let me know if you have any specific questions. You can chat me and message me throughout the webinar so that I can answer your questions. I also want to explain to you the difference between a contact and a case profile. I create a contact, let's say for a prospect who probably doesn't have a contract yet, or they haven't retained me. I still want to create a contact for them so I can maybe type my notes or start capturing as much information as possible. If they don't move forward, at least I can have their contact information, reach out later, or at least, of course, create like an invoice for the consultation. But that's a contact profile. And it looks more like this. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the contact profile where you have all the information, all the data, the general information, history information, etc. Right? So this is the contact profile or client profile. Now, when you create a case or a matter and you click on the right hand side cases, this is where you create the actual process. So a person can actually have different processes, okay, different cases. And as a reminder, the system is customizable for non-immigration cases. So if you have, or if you are a nonprofit organization and you want to use it for social services, or maybe you are an attorney and handle family law or personal injury, criminal cases, whatever, like you can customize the system and use it for that as well. Okay, so that is the difference. Let me open one case profile so you can see the difference. And I'm going to click on her name to open her contact profile. If you don't know where in the system you're at, you can look at the left on the top where it says Home, Clients, General Info. That means that I'm on the client profile. If I look at the case, it's going to say Cases. So that's how you can also differentiate. But again, they do look different. You can see the case information. With that being said, I just want to clarify that because when you create a questionnaire, you kind of want to know, okay, where is the data that I am looking for? If I want to ask the person for like the first name, last name, social, date of birth, well, that's here under the client profile under general info. So before you even create your questionnaire, I suggest that you explore where in the system you'll find, for example, the I-94 or biographic information, or and so just kind of play with the system, explore where you'll find these documents or fields. We also have like the family members. Sorry, I think it's frozen. Let me know if you guys can still hear me. Gosh, I hope yeah, it's just, I think I clicked too fast. Okay, so I was saying that you can also link the family members. And when you create a questionnaire, we do have a section for you to gather the data from the beneficiary as well, or the parents or children. And so we'll go over those as well. But yeah, so I wanted to clarify the difference between the client and the case profile and the importance of exploring and getting familiar with where in the system I can find a specific field. Speaking of fields, you're gonna be able to create your own or customizing your own fields. Why? Because there's probably information that you want to capture in addition to what's already in the system. For example, I may want to ask, what is your full name in native alphabet? That's not a question that we have as a standard field in the general info page. And so if I want to create a questionnaire and I want to ask this question, where in the system am I going to store the data? That's why you need a custom field. The way I see it is like a container, like a recipient, like where am I going to place this information? So you need to create a custom field, and then I'm going to show you how to map it or connect it so that this transfers to the actual forms. Now, the system has questionnaires included. We call those system intake forms. If you notice on the top left, if you click create questionnaire and then click print and view, you're going to see the questionnaires that you have. Okay, don't mind, these are just examples because we have our testing site. So don't pay attention to these. You should have the biographic information or the general information, all of the background questions for specific forms. Now, if you want to take a look at any of these questionnaires, all you need to do is click on the little pencil right here and view it or open it. These questionnaires, again, that are already in the system included, you can also translate them. So if I want to see this in Spanish and I want to print it, so my client just takes a copy, the hard copy, and brings it back to me, then I can print it after I translate the questions. Again, these are the ones that we have in the system. But today I'm going to show you how you can customize these system intake forms so that you may want to remove questions such as fax number or, I don't know, like what's title or degree, major fellow study. I mean, you can get rid of questions or add additional questions to the existing system intake forms. Please let me know if you have any questions at any point. Okay. All right, so let's switch back to the admin. As I said, the administrator portal is where you customize and create pretty much everything. All right, so let's learn how to create custom fields. I'm going to play a quick tutorial video and then message me if you have any questions.
Hello, and welcome to our Cerenade video. In this video, we will go over creating custom fields. With custom fields, just like it sounds, you can create fields to store additional info on a client profile. Now, in order to create a custom field, you must have access to the Admin Tools page. Let us log into the caseworker portal. From the home page, click on the settings icon on the top right and proceed to click on Administrative Tools. You are now in the Admin Tools. From here, you will select Client Custom Fields as we want to store info on the client profile. But keep in mind that you can also create custom fields in the case profile by selecting Case Custom Fields. Let us proceed with adding Client Custom Fields. We will select Add Client Custom Field. You will first select for which type of client this custom field is for. Is it for individual client profiles or business profiles? Is it for both? Check the boxes that apply. You will then give it a name. The name is something that the system will help identify this custom field when it comes to building reports and other tasks. There can be no spaces when adding a name. You will then give it a title. This is the area where you'll enter your question how you'd like to see it in the custom fields, such as, does the client have a dog? You will then select a type of custom field. The options we have here is text, number, date, Boolean, drop-down list, and text area. If selecting text, just like it sounds, you can enter any text at the moment of entering info on the custom fields in the client profile. If selecting number, you can enter a number value. If selecting date, you can enter a date. If selecting Boolean, it is a checkbox that you can select within the custom fields in the client profile. With drop-down list, you can make a list of possible answers and will select it in the custom fields. Lastly, text area is similar to text, only this option gives you a bigger box to fill out. For my example, I will use a drop-down list and add the options yes and no. Once I have my custom field created, I can click on Save. My custom field has now been created and I can enter the information in the client profile. Additionally, these custom fields can become options to add in custom intake forms, meaning I can add the question on our intake forms, and once the client answers, it transfers the info into the custom fields section of the client profile. This concludes our video on creating custom fields.
Now, I do want to clarify something that if you want a custom field to be included in a questionnaire and an intake form, it has to be a client custom field. Do not create a case type. All right, so make sure that you create your client custom fields and then you're going to be able to include them in your questionnaire. The next area that I'm going to show you is how you connect your custom field to the actual form. And one thing you should know is that if the form has a new version, you have to remap or reconnect your custom fields. In fact, we're going to tell you right here, newer version available. All right. So give me 1 second. I'm going to play the second or the next video and let me know if you have questions.
Hello, and welcome to our Cerenade video. In this video, we will go over form custom data population. What this feature does is allow you to grab a custom field in the client profile and map it to a question on a form. Let us log into the caseworker portal. Let us access our admin tools page by clicking on the settings icon and from there select Administrative Tools. Before we begin, you must have custom fields created in the client profile. Those were either manually created by you in the Client Custom Fields section of the Admin Tools page, or those were created at the moment of uploading a custom questionnaire. Let us continue. We will select the File drop-down menu up top, and then select Form Custom Data Population. You will now be asked to locate the form you want to map. Let us search for that form by clicking on Add Form Custom Data Population. You will then enter if it's a system form or custom. You will select the form category and select if it's a US immigration form or other. You will then enter the name. Either type out the exact name or enter partial name such as the number. When you click Find, it will list matches. If you found your form, click on the Select button. You are now inside the form. From here, you will locate the question you want to map. Before we start mapping, something to keep note of is not every question can be mapped. If you select an area and it does not allow you to map it, then that question is already tied to something in the client profile. You will encounter this when wanting to map things like names, addresses, and so on. Those sections are mapped to its equivalent in the client profile. You cannot map a question that's already mapped to something in the client profile.
All right, so I want to pause the video really quick because there is an enhancement to this feature. So technically now, if you allow the settings from your admin, you can overwrite. Just so you know, even though we have mapped a form to any of these fields, well, you can overwrite. And if you want to create your own custom field, even though we already have a system field for the intake, then you can overwrite. Just wanted to clarify that.
Profile. Let us continue. Let us find a question that isn't mapped to anything. We will select a text box, and from there select the Populate Field button. A pop-up will appear. We will first select if this is a custom field in the client profile or the case profile. We will select Client as the custom fields are in the client profile. We will then select a custom field name. Here you will see the name of your custom fields. Once you find the exact custom field, select it. You will then be asked to select the form region, which is set to employer, alien, spouse of alien, father of alien, and mother of alien. Depending on the section of the form will determine what to select here, but for the most part you will set it as alien. This means when a client is tagged as alien to a case, their info will auto-populate onto the section of the form. We will finalize it by clicking OK. Beside mapping text boxes, you can also map check boxes, such as yes or no questions on forms or question that has a series of checkboxes. In similar fashion, you will select the checkbox that applies. Select Client, as this is in the client's profile. You will then select the custom field. Now, you will see a new box appear. This is a drop-down list of the custom field. You can then select the option that applies here. This means if you select this answer in the custom field section in the client profile, or your client answers this question with this exact answer on the questionnaire, the software will select this option on the form. You will select it as alien or other if it applies, and finalize it by clicking OK. If there are other checkboxes, you will repeat similar steps of highlighting it, clicking the Populate Field button, and proceed to select the exact answer that applies to this selection. Once you are finished mapping a form, you will click on the X button and your changes will be saved. If you ever need to make any changes to the mapping, you can always revisit this area and enter the form listed. Your form is ready to use and will now reflect when accepting questionnaires from a client or selecting the answers in the custom fields. Before we end this video, something to note. These mappings apply to this current version of the form. If the form is updated, you are responsible to apply these mappings to the new version of the form.
I also want to say something that it's, more like in general, when you guys create your own custom fields and when you map them to the forms or you create your questionnaires, you will have questions. That's normal. We want you to contact us at any point. For those that are new, you have the technical support button where you can just reach out and send us a message, or you can contact us over the phone. What I'm trying to say is that take it one step at a time. Don't feel overwhelmed that you have to memorize everything today. Obviously it's not going to happen. It's until you create your own and practice and play with the system, that's when you realize probably questions that you didn't know you had. Okay. All right, so we've learned how to create the custom fields and map them. Now we're going to show you the custom intake forms. We do have, like I said, existing or system intake forms. And my suggestion is that instead of creating your own intake forms from scratch, that you copy or modify what's already in the system, right? So if you click custom form templates, you're going to see on the right hand side intake forms. And then again, here's where you can customize one or click on System Intake Forms. Like I said, we already have questionnaires available that you can modify. So if you locate the questionnaire that you want, let's say the N400 background questions, I want to use those. I click on Copy, and then I can just add or remove stuff. This is where you can modify the subject, and then of course like the questions. If you created a custom field, this is where you can map it. For example, my question might be, I'm going to move it all the way up. See how it's, well, every time that you click and it adds a question, it's going to add it all the way at the bottom. So I can change that number, put number 1, and my question would be, is this the first time that you contact us? Just to give you an idea, I created a question, a custom field for this question so that I can ask my prospects if this is the first time that they reach out. And then if they say yes, my follow-up question would be, how did you hear about us? So I can ask that question as a follow-up, or if they say, no, this is not the first time that I contact you, well, what's your case number? Oops. Okay. So anyways, once you create questions and you change the number here, once you save it, it's going to rearrange it. So because I put number 1, of course, it's going to go all the way up. And you can also drag and drop the questions, or you can remove the questions or headers or anything that you don't need. For example, I'm removing all these, or so that's on the left, right? The questions. Again, just click. It's going to add it at the bottom, change the number. I'm just going to say, what's your name, or name, and then save it. So now my question, because I chose number 2, it's right here. Every time that you add a question that was not here, it's going to ask you to map it or connect it. Okay, so that's the second step. But before I go there, let me know if you have any questions so far. If you notice, we have also a section called repeated sections. So not only I may want to ask, like, what is your name, or how did you hear about us, or things like that, but I can also add specific sections that are already created, like other names they have ever used. So let's move that one to number 3. I also want to ask like the previous addresses, but here I'm going to say we only need your last 5 years of history, right? So you can, again, customize the questionnaire that way, and it becomes your questionnaire. Now, speaking of that, at the bottom where it says options, you can also add your logo. Let's preview. Now it has my logo. It has these follow-up questions where if they click yes or no, it's going to ask the follow-up. And then, of course, whatever questions I added. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Then mapping, if I click on the next section, once I create the questions, mapping means connecting to the system. Where in the system is this question? So because I created a custom field for that, my category should be custom field, but not system, client custom field. So my custom field was source. No, I'm just kidding. It was first time. Is this the first time that you're here? The next one, how did you hear about us, is the custom field for source. And then the last one, I would say, no, this is not the first time that I contact you. Well, then what is your case number? You see, as I type, I can narrow down my search and it gives me the custom field that's related. Also on the right hand side, you can make these questions required. So they cannot submit the questionnaire if they don't answer at least these 2. The next one, every time that you see the field outlined with orange, it means that it's pending. Where in the system is the individual name? Well, remember, I have 2 tabs open so I can double check. I see that I'm looking at the first and middle and last name, and I'm in the client general info. So I can go back and then click general info and then just select the field, first, middle, last name. Again, I can make that required. All right, so once you have that, the last step would be translations. Do I want this questionnaire? I'm going to call it N400 naturalization. You know what? Because I have done so many, I'll just add today's date. And my translations that I want would be Spanish, I don't know, Portuguese, and Persian. So just select the languages that you want to include and make sure that you review. For example, here, it will give you the translation as is, nombre, name. But if you want to change that, cómo se llama, or like you can modify this as well. So that's why you have to review to make sure that the translation is the way you prefer it. And then at the bottom, you're gonna click submit. That's how you kind of review and submit the translation. So once you review and click submit, click save. All right, so I'm just gonna save and close, and now I have a version of that N400 with whatever I wanted instead of creating one from scratch. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to play a detailed video on how to create intake forms. All right, again, this is gonna kind of help you as a recap, but message me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to our Cerenade video. In this video, we will go over custom intake forms. With this, you can create your own intake form with your own specific questions, which will then allow you to send to the client in the client portal or to use in the alternate view of the client profile. Let us log into the caseworker portal. To be able to design custom intake forms, you must have access to the admin tools page. Let us access this by clicking on the settings icon on the top right and proceed to click on administrative tools. Once in the admin tools, you can click on the custom form templates icon. From here, locate the intake forms tab on the right and click on it. We will proceed to click on add custom intake form. We are now in the area to design a custom intake form. The first thing we want to do is name it to help identify when wanting to send to clients or to use in the alternate view. To the left, you will see different possibilities of things you can add to your custom intake form. Let us go through these options. The first is text. When clicked, you will see a section appear. Here you will enter the question you want to ask your clients. You will then decide how you want them to answer in the drop-down menu. You can do a short text, a longer text area, a date selection, phone number, email address, and numeric value. Let us create a dummy one with a short text area and one with a date area. Once you add questions, you can click on the preview icon on the top right to show you how the intake currently looks. If you created questions and want to rearrange, you can simply click on the question, drag it to the position you like, and the questions will now be rearranged. The next section on the left is yes or no questions. If selected, you can then type out the question and select the options for yes or no, or yes, no, and not applicable. The next option is list. With list, you can have a question and have the software have a drop-down list. We have a couple different options. You can list the countries, their gender, and relationships. You can also create your own list. Your client will then select an option from the drop-down list. The next option is multiple choice. If selected, you can type out the question. Additionally, you can create different answers by entering the answer and clicking on Add. They will now be listed as answers. The next option is single choice. With multiple choice, you were able to make multiple selections. With single choice, your clients can only pick one. Similarly, you will add the question and the different answers. Your next option is name. When clicked, it will allow you to type out the question such as what is your complete name, and from there you can select how you want them to format their answer. Your next option is address info. You can type out the question such as what is your physical address, and you can even ask for county info, state and zip code, and even province and postal code info. Lastly, you can add a document upload section. This will then allow your clients to upload documents as they are working on this questionnaire. We have now seen how to format and ask many types of questions. On the next page, we will show you how we can tag a question to a section of the client profile so that when answered, the answer goes to that section of the client profile. But before we do that, let us finish showing the types of questions you can add. The next section on this page is repeated sections. Here we have pre-created sections for you that already point to a section of the client profile, and as it states, are repeatable sections that your client can answer. We will see how this works when we preview the intake. Sections we have here are other names, previous addresses, marriage history, employment history, education history, client abroad trips, client children, client members, client affiliations, and client arrests. If we were to select an option like previous addresses, it will list the previous address section here, including the dates to and from. I can modify the question if we want or leave as is. Delete info if I don't want it or leave as is as well. If we were to click on Preview, we will see how it looks different to other sections we previously created. It will create a box specifically for the previous addresses. When sending this out to your clients can then insert multiple entries here. On the bottom of the box are options to add entries and delete entries. The same box logic will be applied when including other sections in the repeated section, such as employment history, client children, client members, and so on. You will see a box for each, and your clients will have the ability to enter multiple entries. The last couple things to show on this page is the layout and options for your intake form. In the layout, we have different tools. The first is a header. You can make it into a small header, medium, or large header, and type out the header. Once created, you can drag it to any area you'd like, such as at the top, or even create subheaders for sections. If we click Preview, we will see our headers. The next option is Description. This is an area where you can enter subtext such as instructions for your clients when viewing the intake form. Once you have typed out the description, same as the header, you can drag it and apply it to a section. You can confirm how it looks by clicking on the Preview button. The next is adding a horizontal line, in case you want to separate sections of this intake form with a line. You can drag and drop it anywhere. Lastly, you can add a vertical space in case you want to create separation between sections or headers. Simply add it, and then drag it between sections you want space. In the Options section, the last couple things you can do is you can check to include your logo. This logo can be inserted in the Admin Tools page, specifically the branding section of the Admin Tools. You can also choose to number the questions. Once you have your questions set and are satisfied with how it looks, we can proceed to the next section of the intake forms, which would be tag it to a section of the client profile. Let us click on Next. We are now at the area to tag the questions. On the right-hand side, you will see two main components, the category and the field. You will first want to select the category. This means where in the client profile is this going, specifically the tabs on the right of the client profile. For our first example, we are asking for their first name, so we want this to go into the General Info section of the client profile. On the field, we will then locate subcategories in the General Info section. If you click on Search Fields, by default it will list sections of the General Info. You may also type out a section. Once we find first name, we will click on it. This question is now tagged to the first name in the General Info section of the client profile. We will move on to the next question, middle name. We will select a category, choosing General Info. We will then select a field. If we click on it, we will select middle name. But before we do, please note that you can no longer see or select first name. The reason for this is it is already tied to a question. You can only select one question to go into one field in the client profile. The only exception is repeatable sections we saw earlier, as you can have multiple entries. You will go one by one tagging each question, assigning it to a client profile category, and then a field in the category. If you do not have a field for a specific question, you can create a custom field in the client profile, and then it will become an option here, meaning the answer to the question will go into the custom field. If you do not want to create a custom field and do not want to tag it, the answer will stay within this intake form when submitted. For repeated sections that we added, such as previous addresses, you will notice that the category and the fields are already selected. This means you do not need to modify. Whenever this is answered on the intake form, the answers will go to the appropriate section of the client profile. The last thing to do before we save and exit is you can make a question a required field. By checking the boxes to your right, your clients cannot submit their questionnaire until they apply an answer to a question. You will proceed to choose which questions you want to be required to answer when submitting questionnaires. Once finished, you can click on Save. You can rename it and even add a description to help identify in the caseworker portal. Once saved, you can come back and make edits at any time. Additionally, you can even make the exact copy of an intake by clicking on the Copy button, in case you want to create a similar intake form and add or remove a couple questions. We have now created our custom intake form and can click on the settings icon on the top right and proceed to click on Caseworker Portal. Once in the Caseworker Portal, you can now send this as a questionnaire like you normally would with our standard questionnaires, and you can go into the client profile, click on the alternate view, Select the drop-down menu and locate the intake you just created. You can proceed to enter info on the intake, and when saved, it will go to the appropriate location in the client profile. This
All right, so let me know if you have questions about the custom intake forms and the process of creating them. I'm gonna show you how to send it to the client and receive it. I noticed someone messaged me. I responded. This was a question regarding e-filing. If you don't know if you have that module included or not, click on the top right corner and select subscription details. And then you should see, for example, e-filing, it should say like expire, like an expiration date. And then make sure that you scroll down as well to see if your e-filing says all, because you probably have it blocked where it says none. So even if your law firm has e-filing included, maybe they never enable it for you. And then the other thing is, if you click on e-filing and then click on the question mark, it will give you the step-by-step instructions on how to e-file a form. All right, thank you for sending me the question. I also noticed people raising hands. It was probably the same person, but I cannot unmute you. I can read your questions. So chat me, send me your questions. Speaking of questions, I would like to launch a poll. How do you guys prefer to capture your client's info usually? Do you type it directly into the profile? Do you send them questionnaires? Were you aware of the alternate view? I know the majority of you are probably new, or probably not, but we'll see. Okay, let's see what the majority of you usually prefer to do with the data. Okay, I'm waiting for the rest of the participants to vote. I usually close this until I get more than 50. Yeah, okay, so I got 65% of the votes. Oh, it looks like you plan on entering it directly into the profile. That's great. So for those that do that, if your clients are not tech savvy and you really cannot send them the questionnaire electronically, you can use the alternate view. So let's say I've got the contact profile, and instead of typing the data here in the different fields, just click on alternate view and then select the drop-down menu. This is where you can see the questionnaire. For example, the one that we just created should be here. So N400 and today's date. It's going to give me the information that I already have in the system, and I don't have to retype the same info over and over again. So I like alternate view because again, it might feel easier to see all the background questions are already populating depending on, like, of course, if there's no data in the system, then you have to answer them here. Okay. Whenever you complete or answer the questions on behalf of the client using the alternate view, make sure that you click save to server so this information stays in the system and then it will auto populate the forms. Okay. After you save, you can easily switch to a different questionnaire or intake form. All right, this is just another example of a custom intake forms. Now I'm going to close this and show you what happens if I want to send a questionnaire to a client. Well, I have her contact profile. For those that have text message included, SMS as one of the optional modules in your package, well, as long as you have the cell phone number listed, you can send the client a text message and they can respond to the questionnaire via text message as well. And if you don't have SMS included, at least again, make sure that you have the email address and you can send them the link. Let's take a look. On the top left, I will click on create questionnaire. And the reason why, well, let me get there first. These options are if I want to send it to the client, this particular client or a different one, if I want to print or view. And lastly, we have something called anonymous questionnaires. So if you have, let's say, an employment-based case, a company with 50 employees, instead of you creating 50 separate profiles manually, you can use the anonymous questionnaires and create a hyperlink that the applicant will click on and they'll see this form. So the prospect or potential applicant can enter their own data and create basically their own account or profile. They're going to get an email from us with instructions on how to complete the questionnaire. And remember, that questionnaire could be a simple intake form prior to the consultation, right? Or you can be super specific if it's an H-1B for a specific employer, then you ask them whatever questions you need to ask for that position or that matter. All right, so I suggest that you also use anonymous questionnaires to save time because you can also put the link on your website. So if you are a solo practitioner and you want a link on your website that says, I don't know, like ready for your green card, or you can have them click on that link if they happen to find your website. They can just get started with the consultation, intake form, and then you can um, gain a prospect without without them having to wait until you answer the phone or someone sends a questionnaire. That's just my that's just my recommendation if you want to take advantage of that feature the way I see it. All right, so let's say I do want to send this questionnaire electronically directly to Valeria. Two ways of delivering these questionnaires. One is the traditional way, which is send it to the client portal so she can log in, open, respond, send it back. Or I can send a passwordless link. And if you do this, when you click there, you can send the questionnaire in a preferred language. Maybe Valeria prefers these in Spanish. And notice that I see the process. You can customize the questionnaires associated to the process. For example, if I pick naturalization, I can group my questionnaires to that process or matter. So it's a lot easier for me to select the type of process, and it gives me the questionnaires that are related. Okay. The way you do that, if you haven't done it yet, is in the admin. If you click on case processes and then you find the process, I'm just going to pick that asylum. And so I locate the process or matter, and then I click on the little circle that belongs to questionnaires. So click here and then add whatever questionnaires I want to include. So I will choose the asylum intake form, maybe biographic information, or so any questions that I probably need. I also probably need like their history of education or like, so, just create your combo. What questionnaires or intake forms should be related to this process, and that's it. So moving forward, when I select, the asylum process, I will get those questionnaires. Actually, let me refresh so you guys can see. All right, so create questionnaire, send it to Valeria as a passwordless link in Spanish, and then asylum. So you see, now besides the background questions for asylum, I see everything else. I can just pick and choose whatever I need to share. Or you can create your own version of the questionnaire, whatever you prefer. All right, so I'm gonna click save. This one is not available in Spanish unless I customize it and I add it. Remember you can customize a system intake form, make a copy, and basically just add the translation. I haven't done it for this particular one, so I'll just send it in English. If you get this message, it's because you have already sent the questionnaire to the client. So I'm just gonna send this one. Oh, that's the one I had originally sent. Okay, let's try this one. Of course. What's going on? Probably should use, yeah, there we go. All right, so when you send the passwordless link, this questionnaire as a passwordless link, like I said, if you are subscribed to text message, you're going to be able to send this questionnaire via text message, or you can send it via email, or you can copy the link to the clipboard and paste it into, let's say, WhatsApp or Teams or whatever platform you want to utilize. Okay, I'm gonna say send it as a text message, but I don't want to show my name. I'm just going to say this is from the law office of Cerenade, and I want to change this. Favor de accesar el cuestionario, blah, blah, blah. So you can just change the message and here's a link. Now click send and now she has access to that questionnaire. I'm going to show you how to check if you did or not, because sometimes probably you forget, did I send this questionnaire or not? If you click on documents and then click on questionnaires and forms, this is where you can see the timeline, which questionnaires and forms you have sent or received from this particular client. And it will give you the status, have they entered data or not? When did I send the questionnaire? If you sent the questionnaire, you don't have to resend it. So here's the one that I sent today for the history of address, shows the dates. And if a client makes modification to a questionnaire and they send it to me, it's going to be here. The reason why I wasn't able to resend it is because she's already done with it and I don't have to resend it. All I need to do is go to my inbox, review the questionnaires that I received, which is right here. It looks like she sent it yesterday. So I will open the questionnaire and the system highlights the changes that, anything that has been modified since then. So my two options are I accept the questionnaire or I can resend it. If I click accept, then the system will override and update the database. Let's take a look. Yes, so the date of birth has been updated in the profile, which means that moving forward, when I open a form, it will transfer the correct information. Even after the fact that you accept a questionnaire, you can always override and maybe the client says, you know what, I entered the wrong date of birth. It is this one. You can override and change it manually and then save the changes right here. So this is what's going to transfer to the forms. But I can always check. So if you want a copy of the questionnaire that you received, you can always print it. Okay. All right. So let me know if you guys have any questions so far. I do have a couple of trick questions. Let's see if you guys get these right. So, do you know what happens if a client submits an incomplete questionnaire? There's a way to return it back to the client portal. What do you think? Okay, so let's wait until you all click and vote. So the majority of you got it right. The correct answer is yes. When a client sends a questionnaire that it's incomplete, I can look at the questionnaire. For example, let's say Freddie. I open it and I notice that he didn't complete his ethnicity. So I can click here to send it back to the client so he can complete the questionnaire and continue answering those. Either send it back or send it with a passwordless link. So that was the correct answer. Now, I know we haven't talked about forms, but if you want the client to revise and modify an actual form, not a questionnaire, you need to send it via the client portal. Yes, no, or not sure. I probably should do more of these polls. Are interesting because it makes you think, and sometimes people don't know what to ask because they're new. So this is fun. So the correct answer, again, the majority of you got it right. The answer is yes. If I want the client to review and modify a form, I do need to send it via the client portal. If I don't want them to make corrections and I just want them to review the form, look at the form without making any changes, then I can send it directly to their email. Okay, so for those that are new, this is what I'm talking about. Let me open a case and go to forms. See, this is the ETA 9089. I will just click and then send it to them directly via email as read-only PDF if I don't want them to make changes to the form. But if you want them to edit the form and make corrections that you do need, then you need to send it to the client portal. Question, thank you. When you send a passwordless link, intake, or questionnaire, does the system know to return it to the correct profile? Well, remember, it's not going to return it to the profile until you approve it. And so every time that you receive a questionnaire, regardless of how you sent it, either passwordless link or through the portal, it goes to the mailbox. Yeah, it always comes back to the general mailbox. So the thing is, we don't know if you will accept it or not. What if you want to return it or reject it? What imagine if they send it back blank and we accept it by default, it will blank or overwrite your profile. So it never goes directly to the profile, it goes here into your general mailbox. Thank you for that question. All right, so we're running out of time. I do want to know if you guys have any questions at this point. There's a poll in progress. Again, please vote. Piggyback question, what if you have several caseworkers? Does it still go back to the general mailbox? Yes. Yes, it goes to the general mailbox, no matter who sent it. And that's why you should see, actually, let me wait until this is done so I can close it. Okay, I'll wait for the 9% who had questions. You guys can send it to them, to me, sorry. And if you want to contact our team for support, please do so. All right, so this is, someone asked me, what if you have multiple caseworkers and they all send their questionnaires? It doesn't matter. They all come here in a general collective mailbox. See, I can see the client name, the type of questionnaire, when this was sent and submitted, and who sent it. So if Kevin was not in the office, I can help Freddie. I can open the questionnaire on behalf of Kevin. All right, so let's continue. We're almost done. I do want to, well, remember to download my PowerPoint presentation so that you can click on the links and download the videos. All right, so resources and support. What happens when you have questions? You can contact us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Pacific Standard Time, except on holidays. You can send us an email 24/7. That's our email address. Or, like I said, click on the home screen option where it says technical support message. You can also send your feedback to developers if there's something that you guys like or dislike. Please let us know. Like I said, we have a user's guide that you can click on to access videos and step-by-step instructions as well. We do these trainings for free live every Friday at 10 a.m. Again, Pacific Standard Time, except on holidays. We have a podcast. I put the link right here so you can listen to it. We even have a Facebook forum page so you can join and interact with other users and ask questions as well. Like I said earlier, we ask that you please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. It's called Cerenade Academy. Again, the link is right here. Make sure that you do that. Questions and answers. So some of you sent these questions. The first one was, can we create an USCIS account within Cerenade and transfer the information to USCIS online forms? Well, no, the account must be created on USCIS website, but the form data does transfer from eIMMIGRATION or eCMS, depending on what you have, to the USCIS website using our e-filing optional module. I put the link right here, and we do offer also not just USCIS, but also DOL and DOS e-filable forms as well. Okay. Next question is, why can't I send questionnaires from my email? I can only send from the attorney's email. This confuses the client. If your site has been configured to send questionnaires from the attorney's email by default and you wish to send questionnaires from your email, simply use the send intake forms with passwordless link as your delivery method. You can then send the questionnaire link from your own email. For example, let's go over the contact Okay, see, if I wanted to send a questionnaire and I click create, did I accept the, sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, I did accept it. Okay, let's go back. Okay, I'm gonna click create questionnaire, send it to Valeria. I'm gonna send it to Valeria for the client, to the client portal and select the questionnaire. Maybe again, select this one and then save. See this send email? You can also click here, but instead of sending it from the attorney's email address, you can choose to have an alternate email. So maybe info@lawfirm.com, or like, the reason why I see this here is because in the admin portal, under the application settings, there's a section for SMTP mail server settings, and I have an alternative or general email address. So maybe if that's what you want, instead of sending it through the passwordless link, it's up to you. But anytime that you email the client, not necessarily for questionnaires, but in general, you don't necessarily have to use the attorney's email address, but know that when they respond back, then yes, you will have to ask the attorney because it's going to go to their email address. So the best approach, like we say, is this one: send intake forms with passwordless link. Because let's say I want to send this, and gosh, I hope that one I can send. Yes. See, when I send the email, again, I can change it. Do not send it from here, send it from this email address. I hope that helps and your clients are not confused. All right. So continuing with our Q&A, wondering about best practices for closing files and cases. Actually, this was a great question from the administrator portal. If you haven't done it, we suggest that you customize the close and archive reasons. And there's also some application settings that you must customize. I put the link right here so you can watch the video, but let me show you really quick what I'm talking about. In the admin portal, if you click on types, case, archive, or close reasons, you can have reasons by default. Just click add and maybe um, client not responding. So every time that I close a case and I want to specify a reason, I can choose from that drop down menu. Now, these reasons, you can have them. Let me click on application settings. You can make that mandatory. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to keep scrolling down. These two options are what I'm talking about when I said application settings that must be customized. This is what I was referring to. You can make these reasons editable, like where your staff can make changes or choose from that drop-down menu, or you can also make that mandatory. Let me switch so that I can explain better what I'm talking about. When you guys have a case and you want to close it or archive it, there's going to be a status. So if I change it to archived or closed, here is the archive or close reason asterisk, because it's a mandatory field, meaning I cannot save or update the status if I don't provide you with a reason why. This is the one that I just created. Client has not been responding. That's why we're closing the case. That's it. Or if you make this available for your staff to edit, they can. We tried calling several times. Like, you can edit. Okay. So that would be the best practice that we can recommend regarding closing a case. And know that when you close or archive a case, we're going to lock the forms so that even if you change the database, all the forms, once you closed a case, see, please note that the case is closed or archived, and if I try to open a form, it's going to tell me that I can open is as a read only. It's locked. I cannot make any changes to it because it's a closed case. I see someone raising a hand. Can you please message me? You have to message me so I can help you. Thank you. All right, next question was, how to add custom fields and map them to forms. We have answered this question already, but again, as a recap from the admin portal, click on client and or case custom fields. And once you create them, go to file access where it says form custom data population. But again, this is a link. If you have questions, please click on chat or questions because I can't unmute you. This is a section called Did You Know? So again, I suggest that you download my PowerPoint presentation so you can click on the links and learn more about these. How to translate the intake forms, what the drag and drop feature is for, etc. The case document assembly, how you can put together your package, and of course, e-fileable forms. We keep adding more forms. I just realized um, the ISOR H1B from the flag system is now available, and that's great news. And know that our team is aware and they're adding more forms to the list in general. If you are subscribed to the e-filing module, you can now import data from the CBP website, like the most recent I-94s and abroad trips. So again, click on the link to learn more and let us know if you have any questions. The upcoming trainings for the month of May are here. Again, you can click on the links to register. I cannot download your link. You mean the PowerPoint presentation? Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'll email it to you. Okay, as soon as I'm done, I'll send it to you. Yeah, so just click on the chat so that I can see your question. Yeah, if you're not able to download the PowerPoint presentation, message me so that I can email it to you directly. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So, yep, that's it for today. I hope that you guys learned something new. Like I said, this is a live training. We cannot go at your own pace, but we do want to connect with you. If you need a private training or if you need customer support, like technical support, please contact us. We want you to be satisfied with the system and our services. Have a great weekend, everyone. And thank you again for your time and for your preference. So for those that are not aware of, but we have a referral program. If you have a colleague who is not using eIMMIGRATION yet, you can refer them to us. And if they subscribe, we give you a $50 gift card or credit for your next invoice. And they also don't have to pay the 400 setup or installation fee. So it's a win-win. Again, for those that are interested in recommending eIMMIGRATION, you will get an incentive. Thank you so much for those that have done it. And don't forget to connect with us through different channels like, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the podcast. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.